13 is a brand founded for the creators, the innovators, and the motivators, for the people who get up every single day and strive to be better and leave a positive mark on this world. 13 is a fantastic clothing company, and the people that are behind it are passionate, creative, and some of the nicest people I have ever met. All of their stuff looks great, it's comfy, all the designs are so super cool. 13 has some of my favorite t-shirts and seriously my favorite pair of sweatpants I have ever worn. 13 has been a longtime sponsor and supporter of the Cory cast, and they wanted to extend their love to you, the listener. So when you check out their website at thur13en.com, fill your cart with some cool hats, hoodies, sweatpants. Just make sure you use the code word CoryCast at checkout and you're going to save yourself a little bit of money. thur13en.com. Make sure you tell them Cory sent you. My guest today is real estate legend Roseann Farrow. If you are a New York State real estate agent, you probably have taken one of her classes. She is a sought-after, renowned real estate instructor, and she has taught all over from the East Coast to the West Coast to Hawaii. She is so sought after because of her engaging way of getting great real estate information across. Not only does she engage her classroom, she has all these different unique various ways to mix things up. So it's not just definition, slide, definition, slide. Her personality completely shines through when she teaches, and that's one of the best things I love about Roseann. She can mix up all this real estate stuff with her great sense of humor. And not only is she a fantastic instructor, but she's run a really great real estate business for many years, earning her the Realtor Emeritus status, which we go into a little bit on this podcast. I really look up to Roseann. I think she is a shining example that other real estate agents should really be more like. She's engaged in the board of realtors at the state level, her local level. She's educating other realtors, and man, she just has a powerful way to get information across. And I totally understand why so many brokerages, so many different state boards look to Roseann to teach their classes. I cannot say enough good things about Roseann, because not only is she a great teacher, but she's also a great human being. And every time I get the opportunity to talk to her on the phone and pick her brain, I really feel lucky. And I'm glad that we got to share this hour together, because I feel like I learned so much. And I don't know, she's a great person. And this podcast is going to show you just how great of a person she is. So without further ado, here is my friend Roseann.
So hello, everyone. I'm Roseann Farrow, and I'm a licensed associate broker at a company in Cornwall, New York called Smidger Realty. It's where I started and where over the years, round and round in circles, I ended up. So I'm still there. I'm there now. I also am I have my own real estate broker license, just in case. And I have been in so many kinds of real estate related jobs over the years. But what I am today is mostly Roseann Farrow seminars. I have a little company, just me, sole proprietor, and I write courses, I edit courses, I write online material, I edit books for some of the book publishers, I write and edit for them, for the real estate industry, pretty much everything related to real estate. I'm a presenter for NYSAR. I am a senior instructor at NYSAR, and I am a REBAC instructor. I'm a Rebbe instructor. This is, by the way, Cory, this is only real estate people who I'd be speaking to right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of my friends, maybe even my mom.
Okay, so when I say Rebbe or REBAC or blah, blah, there's so many acronyms. I am a national instructor. And there was a time in my career when I did travel nationally as well and teach for, say, different boards in different states or state convention topics and stuff. But over the years, been there, done that. And I decided to just stick kind of Northeast New York, around that area, New Jersey, a little bit, whatever. And that's kind of what I do.
Wow, it's really cool because when I got to know you, you were talking about all the different roles you've had in real estate. And I don't think a lot of people realize how many different roles. What roles have you been in real estate and how many roads have you gone down?
It is interesting. There's so many ancillary careers that people can have when they come into real estate, and I remind people of that when I'm sometimes teaching in those license courses, the pre-license, or I'm just talking to agents in general, that there's just many different things you can end up in. Who knows? You just don't know. I mean, I started in real estate sales, and I started in sales in the 70s. I was very young. I was young, married real early, in college, had 2 kids, and we bought our first home. And when we bought our first home, I thought, man, this looks really easy. It's very typical of why many people come into business. Either you had a really good experience or you had a really bad one. I had an okay one. I really didn't know what to expect. In the olden days, there wasn't a lot of training at all. So the agent just took me to some houses. We picked one, and that was that. And I thought, I should do this like on the side, because I was substitute teaching, trying to get a full-time job. And I thought, I should do this on the side and make money, because how hard could this be?
Famous last words.
Yeah. But boy, did it grab me. It really grabbed me. I say that to agents all the time. When it grabs you, you'll know. And if it doesn't grab you, do something else. Just do something else.
Do you feel like in the first few years, if it doesn't grab you, you should get out, or should you give it a couple more years?
Oh, I think you'll know real soon. I think my feeling about that is what I think helped me to be a really pretty good sales manager. I was a manager for Harold Kahn, my mentor, my key mentor, for 13 years. And many years after being in sales, I moved to his company as his training director, because I was teaching already, and as a sales manager. And I right away took the CRB courses, Certified Real Estate Brokerage Manager. He pushed me to do that because I had been teaching. And, I knew how to do that, but I didn't really know, business planning, all that stuff, profitability, productivity, recruiting, retention, termination. I didn't know that stuff really. So I took the CRB series. And in those days, you had to take all of the courses and you had to travel to find them. I mean, I had to go to Chicago or Washington and to grab these courses. Yeah, it wasn't like so easy to take them. And you couldn't skip any because you had experience or anything. So it was boot camp for me. And some people say that the CRB series is kind of like getting an MBA in real estate management. It's really a good series if anybody wants to go into management.
They're still doing that now, right?
Oh yeah. I have actually a real estate broker friend in Nassau County who just got his CRB, and he's just so excited about it. And it's a great network of people who will help you because they're all either broker owners or managers, and
right.
from all over the country. So when I was in those courses, I learned about termination, and I think that many other things. But I think what really helped me to help agents is this, what we were just talking about. If it doesn't grab you and you don't like it, get out, move out, do something else, because life is short and then you die. So might as well do things that give you pleasure and help serve the public, because that's the key, and that you're pretty darn good at, or you aspire to be good at. But kind of quick, I think I did as a manager. I knew kind of quick if somebody was going to cut it or not. And because you're in real estate and you see the new agents who come into the business, if they don't want to work, they're not going to make it. It's
the ones that don't show up, it's very obvious that that this might not be the business for you. And I think it's hard for a lot of people because it's really you go from a job where it's like somebody's telling you what you have to do every single day, but then you go into a job where you have to remind yourself to do something every day and make sure you're doing something to grow your business. It's really funny that you're a substitute teacher. That like makes it like connects the dots better for me. I was like, man.
Well, because then I was doing that, waiting for the job and selling real estate, and had 2 little kids at the time, and I was married and lived in Cornwall and Hudson, where I raised my family in the Hudson Valley. And my kids are still in that area, my one son put his kids through that school system as well. So I didn't know, like, should I stay with this? Should I do the teacher? But a full-time job became available, and that's what forced me to make my decision. A full-time job became available. It was offered to me. And the pay scale back in the day was so low for teaching. Yeah. And it was a good career, though. But I was making way more money just selling real estate part-time. And I had my freedom. I could go to my kids' school. I could play tennis. I could do all the things I wanted to do and not have to punch a clock. Exactly. So I just threw in the towel and said, I'm making a choice. You can't usually have the sum of all the options or all the alternatives in life. And so I picked real estate, and I never looked back. So I stayed with it. And then in 1979, the DOS in New York State decided for the first time that real estate salespeople and brokers would need to take courses to keep their license. In fact, they decided for the first time that somebody who wanted to come into real estate would need a course.
Oh, so even before that time, you could just get your license by applying for it?
Yeah, it was like, you just write to the DOS. They mail you this little book. And on the inside cover, I'll never forget it. It said, Article 12A, I'll never forget this. Article 12A of the Real Property Law was enacted in 1922 to protect the public against unscrupulous real estate agents. And I remember thinking, holy cow, this is what I'm joining? So then I went to the local armory in Newburgh, where there was different places you could go, and took a test and got a license. And you find a broker, and they hand you the phone book and say, here's your territory, go get them, tiger. That was real estate. We didn't know anything. You just whatever, and you just did all the wrong things because you didn't know what you were supposed to do, kind of in sales, that is. And you muddled your way through like Mr. Magoo. But then in 79, the DOS smartened up and said, okay, now you're going to take 45-hour course to get a license. And then once you have a license, you need to take another 45 hours of courses every 4 years. And we all had the same deadline date. So that was kind of wacky because.
What was the initial, when the DOS made that a new rule, what was everyone's reaction? Were they upset at it? Were they like, good, we needed something like this?
Nuts. They were like, what do you mean you have to take a course? Agents already were like, well, I have to what? In fact, that's how, because of politics, once that went through in 79, the big boys and gals of the world in real estate in Manhattan, et cetera, the Helmsleys and the Trumps, et cetera, all said, whoa. Like, we're not doing that. We're not taking course. So DOS went, okay, I'll tell you what. Then they came out with like an amendment, and they said, if you've been in real estate for 15 years and you have a broker's license, and they didn't clarify how long you had to have that. They just said, and you have a broker's license, you don't need the continuing ed. So all of a sudden, everybody got a broker's license. Like everybody, my friends, me, everybody got and you became an associate broker. So you didn't have to take CE. So that's why, if you're wondering why there's so many real estate agents who are associate brokers, it was because they just, it's cool to get the license too, but they just didn't want to continue to take CE. They were grandfathered, and that went away. That went away a couple of years ago. Yep. But so when they passed this rule, They didn't have the courses and they didn't have teachers. They just passed a rule.
Oh,
So I said, I was like, well, I was at Smitchka Realty then, selling real estate. And I thought, I think maybe I should teach. Maybe I'll just go back to that, but I'll do it in this industry.
yeah.
And that's how I started teaching, because I
No
just
way.
said, I'll do that. And they did want me to be a broker. So I quickly got my broker's license, associate broker at that time. And I just started teaching, and I started writing courses, and other people wrote courses. And I just started teaching at the local college. I started teaching because there weren't the real estate schools yet, the colleges and whatever. And I always, no matter all the other jobs I had in my interesting career, I always taught on the side, and the franchise jobs that I had, regional manager and all that kind of stuff for so many years, because I had that teaching background, these brokers and these companies that would bring me in because I had to visit them as the regional manager of the whatever franchise, they loved the fact that I could teach. So they would say, well, when you're here, maybe I was up in Massachusetts or I was in New Jersey, wherever I was. I had the Northeast usually as my territory, New York, New Jersey, and the 6 New England states. So I would do teaching there and they loved it. So it really worked out well for me.
Wow. That is so cool. The part about that story is so funny to me that New York State was just like, you got to take courses. And then everybody's like, okay, where are they?
Yeah. Wacky stuff, huh? And if you ever wonder why you as a newer real estate agent, but you're not that new. How many years are you now?
I'm going to my 5th year.
Yeah. So that's already your experience now. But we had 45 hours every 4 years, same deadline date. But when that didn't work out real hot because everybody waited till the 47th month to do it, that is. Yeah. So DOS thought that over and they were like, okay, you know what? Here's an idea. Not to pass a new law because you have to wait a year. They just made a decision to cut it in half. And the 45 became 22 and a half. If you ever wonder where the half came from.
That's what it is.
Every 2 years commensurate with your license renewal date. So there's always a nice flow of education.
Nice. This way you don't have a giant group of people trying to jam into a class last minute.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy, teaching all over the place in Queens and everything, like all these people banging on the door at the Adria Hotel in Queens. Let me in. Yeah. So they changed it to 22 and a half. And most people just say, okay, 22 and a half. But you always wondered, like, where does the half
Where did the half come from?
Well, now 45 divided by 2, huh? So,
do you remember the first class you taught?
Probably salesperson, salesperson course, pre-license.
Yeah. How did you feel at that point? You were like 8 years, 9 years in the business. How did you feel getting up in front of the people to teach? Were you nervous at all?
Of course, I'm still nervous. I have to teach today and I'm nervous, I'm nervous coming in here today. Of course I'm nervous. If you're not, you're probably too arrogant and you should, do something else,
Amen.
But yeah, you want to be a little bit nervous. Sure. And I was nervous about delivering the material because, salesperson course, those thick books they have, course in a box and whatever. So I was a little bit nervous about that. And the pre-license course has so much information in it that, like, how much do we really know about that stuff?
Yeah.
And how much do we need to know? But, you have to really study. And as I prepare for everything I do.
But especially back then, there was no PowerPoint, there was no slides. So it's like delivering the material in a very entertaining and educational way had to have been very difficult.
I found back in the day, most of the instructors were just lecture. Lecture was the delivery system, the method, and that is one presentation, delivery system lecture, but mostly it was lecture. I found from the other teachers, because other people were doing it too. And because there wasn't a lot of people who understood how to teach, it was in my favor that I had gone through all the teaching courses in college, right? I understood I understood, I understood how Bloom's taxonomy made some sense. So I would say, what level am I teaching at? But most of the instructors who were teaching were not really teachers. They were just people who said, I'll teach,
Right. You at least had a teaching background going
I
into it.
did, yeah. And I had subbed for a while. And I always wanted to be a teacher since I was a kid. I used to play school,
Well,
I
it kind of
always knew
makes
I would be
sense.
a teacher. Yeah, I always knew I'd be a teacher. Either that or a social worker, maybe. But
A social worker? Really? You think you could have made it in
I'm
there?
not real
That for me, it would have
giver.
been tough, I think.
Yeah, I just I like to give and help people. That's why I was good at sales management, because sales managers get up in the morning and go to work knowing that they're going to be helping people who don't wish to be managed.
Yeah.
That's why, right? I mean, that's why people become
Yeah.
independent contractors, because they quit
Yep.
the job where they got managed. You said it earlier. You don't have to go in and so now you're a manager and you're trying to help people achieve their goals, and I'm not even sure many of them even had a goal, but they just wanted to sell houses and make money, and so they don't wish to be managed. I think that if salespeople had become employees early on in the industry, I imagine that kind of a union they'd have. Oh my gosh!
Right.
But if they had become employees, and as a sales manager, I could have said, "Okay, Cory, tomorrow morning, 8:30, we're going to meet. We're going to talk about what are you going to do today? Who are you going to call?" You would have probably, anybody would have probably just risen quickly.
Yeah.
But instead, you came in and you signed out. We used to sign in and out, sign out and say prospecting. You weren't. You were water skiing, or you were doing something else. So I didn't know really where you were, and you didn't have to report to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, if you're not successful quickly, or feel successful, or feel excited about it, get out, because you're probably not going to be successful if you don't get up in the morning, throw your feet on the floor, and go to work.
Yeah. Treat it, if you treat it like a full-time job, you'll get paid like a full-time job,
Yeah.
And I remember in one of your classes that I took, I want to say it was the ABR course. You said that line with, how do you manage a bunch of people who got into an industry that didn't want a manager in the first place? How do you do it? Do you just sit there and just try to provide some type of value to them every day and hope that they bite?
I suppose. I mean, sales management training is a dance. I mean, the job is a dance, but it's a really important job to help people. If you want to, create an environment for, that's conducive to cooperation and fun and excellence and growth, while you're providing a high quality professional real estate service, that's not so easy. That's not so easy. And today, the industry hiring, I see a difference in the industry from the old days, where now many offices have a lot of people, 120 people in one branch office. That's hard to manage.
Yeah.
That's hard, really hard.
Especially for a lot of people. I think after COVID, I would say my office got very empty after COVID, because everybody pushed and created new systems to help them work at home a lot more. In my office, I mean, we have, I think, 30 agents, 35 agents in the office, but maybe 4 or 5 of them come in on a weekly basis. I think a lot of people just started shifting, working from home. There's a big change, I think, coming with that, where it's not going to be maybe so much like a big office with 100 different rooms, and just might be one open air environment for agents to come and drop in on a desk and do some work.
Sure.
Out of all the jobs that you've had, from sales managing to selling, is instructing been your favorite?
I think I was always a sales manager who was a teacher at the same time. So, sales management and teaching are so similar to me. Or even in franchise management, when I worked for Better Homes and Gardens. I worked for what's called Anywhere today, but they were called HFS then. Then when they first came in the biz, buying real estate franchises. I worked for Merrill, which is one of the largest printers in the world. And that was kind of a stepping out of my lane a little bit of real estate, but I worked for them as a regional manager in the Northeast, helping people adopt to technology. Go figure. You're probably laughing when you hear me say the word technology.
No,
However,
you're very good at it.
Well, in those days, technology meant not doing a mailing where you wrote out the envelope. Technology meant like, let us take care of it. Just give us the subject property address and we'll take care of the rest for you. We'll do stuff. And they were like, what? And we taught people how to manage their time more wisely by delegating to the least paid competent help, which was us, So we took care of that, and we did beautiful 4-print stuff, 4-color separation, beautiful print. Merrill is a really beautiful company for printing, and their real estate division was, I think, a very small, insignificant part of their company. But we were the ones who came out there, and then other companies followed with the just listed cards, the just sold cards, all that stuff. And we sent them out for you. We fanned the neighborhoods, and we did your own business cards. Of course, business cards were big, right? In the day, and any print product, the newsletters with your little face on it, which folded over, let us mail them for you, all that kind of stuff. Nice. And so even selling those things was teaching, because that was teaching marketing, right?
Right.
So managing was teaching, and I think, my style was the teaching style, and working for the franchises, helping the sales, the franchisor. In the big franchises, there's a lot of staff. So some of the staff is selling the franchise, right? And I was the other side of it, in terms of meeting up with the brokers, renewing their contracts, helping them out with profitability issues, helping them with recruiting, helping them. That's what we did. We serviced them. And so sometimes the service people, like me and the sales guy or gal, we'd go together to close somebody who we want them to join our franchise, So we teamed up on it. And that was fun too, I thought. And that was selling, So
it's really cool. It seems like your whole career you've always been in some kind of different field, even though they all kind of go hand in hand together. I think even when you're selling, you're still educating people, right? You're still educating your clients on houses.
When you're doing a buyer consultation or a seller consultation, you're selling. You're selling why should they pick your company? Why should they pick you? Well, all of that. You're selling yourself by demonstrating your value proposition, certainly, but
right. With you having all those different positions, have you ever been on a team, or has it always just been?
No, never have, because we didn't really do teams in the day.
Yeah.
Although as a sales manager, even in the early 80s, when I went to work for Harold Kahn, who had the biggest company in the area, the market leader, et cetera, in the Hudson Valley where I was living. And he was a charter member of the Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Service. So that's the brand that I learned about early on. And then I became their regional manager for many, many years. He always pushed for people to get help. So we didn't call it teams. So I grabbed onto that theory as well and understood the value of least paid competent help. So for my top agents who were sitting home at night writing out the thank you cards or writing out the just listed cards, why not get someone else to do it for you, right? So that's almost having a team, if you will. It's a personal assistant, maybe not a physical body, but a company, or like today we have Fiverr and other things like that. But I really believe in that. I probably wrote one of the first Delegate for Dollars with a personal assistant course, in the state. And I remember teaching it in the conventions over the years. And then I renamed it Delegate for Dollars with a personal assistant or team. So it's great, because delegating to the least paid competent help, it's what your broker did when he hired you. When you're a broker owner who probably started in real estate and then opened his own company, or her or they own company, they let you go try to get the listing. They could have gone and gotten it like this probably, but they let you try, right? They delegated And then they built their staff that way, their staff of agents. So
Yeah.
delegating, if your broker did it and you came back with a listing, maybe not filled out exactly correctly, and he was probably doing this, but he didn't let you know. He's like, good job. And here's how we can make it, And so that's what I want to see successful real estate people do right from the get-go, not wait till, I'm going to get an assistant when no, do it. Do it right at the get-go.
Right at this jump, you should have an
Absolutely.
assistant, you're saying?
I totally believe in that, because here's what happens with many agents. They get so tied up in being their own assistant because they say, I don't have an assistant. And I always say, yes, you do. You're your own assistant. So when you get up in the morning, you're Jane Doe real estate agent, and then you're Jane Doe assistant to Jane Doe. So since the assistant work is like easier, it's not like heavy brain duty stuff. You like to do that. It's easier. So you wind up doing that. And then you become sucked up in the job of the assistant. And then you say, well, I'm not really making any money, because you're not doing your job. You're doing the other job, right?
Yeah. Right. That was one of my weaknesses. When I was in retail management, delegation was hard for me for a lot of things. And it's tough to let go of that control and give it to somebody else. But I think when you have an assistant, then it makes things a lot easier. I mean, I don't have a full-time assistant. We have like an admin in our office, but I'm not giving her tons of stuff.
You have virtual assistants today because of technology.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You delegate.
And the value in them is great. I mean, it will free up so much of your time to focus on what you should be doing, which is prospecting and selling. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Face to face with people. That's when you're making money.
Right.
So, and now let me ask you this: when you had your first kid, and congratulations, by the way, on the next one coming.
Oh, thank you.
But when you had your son, and let's say you're trying to teach him how to use a spoon, you had to let him try, right? You had to, so you had to give him that freedom to drop the spoon or drop the food, or that's how you learn, right? You had the first time they make their bed, they don't make it great, but you're not going to like remake it then, because then that's hurtful for them. So you just like you're doing with your son. I think a sales manager who hires has to let go and then pick them up when they fall, certainly, or walk the path with them if they need you to hold their hand. I was a sales manager. I'd go to the listing with you if you wanted me to. I'll go. I know how to do a listing.
Yeah, right. That's Chris Thielen in our North Syracuse office. He said that resonated me once, was as his role as a manager, his customer is the agent, and he's there to help the agent. He's like, I'm less concerned about the client aspect. I need to make sure that my clients are actually, the agents are well taken care of. And I was like, wow, what a very good perspective on that, especially when people are getting into this business and don't want a boss, and then you have to help them, guide them in some sense or direction,
Yeah, I know Chris Thielen very well from the old days. I think when I didn't mention a different company that I worked for a while, talk about getting out of the lane. I worked for a home warranty company, and he was his company, he and his wife were one of my clients back in the day. They used to use the home warranty that I worked for. At the day, it was called HSA, Home Security of America. And in that role, again, I had the Northeast, and I would service the brokers who had used our warranty or try to acquire new ones to use it. In the day, this company that I work for also, they were out of Madison, Wisconsin. They also sold E&O insurance. So I had to get a P&C insurance license. And that was kind of like out of my whole, what? I had to learn about like car insurance and, all that stuff.
Okay. I don't know
because that's all in the course, life insurance, not so much life, but liability stuff. And I enjoyed that, but it was a little bit too far out of my wheelhouse. So for me, I didn't have as much fun doing it. Plus, it met a lot of resistance in the industry. Agents in the Northeast didn't seem to grasp the benefit of a home warranty like they do in the West.
Yeah, I was going to say the West Coast is big. I feel like you don't sell a house without a home warranty.
Absolutely,
Here it's
absolutely. It's
here I
it's
think maybe
not should I get one, it's which one should I get? Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
right. The Northeast here is like I would say maybe like 10% of the deals I did last year had a home warranty on it.
Maybe less. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
honestly, maybe
Yeah.
less. Yeah, maybe
Yes.
less.
Yeah.
When
It's the attachment rate is pathetic. And I thought I was going to come in that biz, man, and I was going to be the home warranty queen of the Northeast. I really did.
yeah,
But they resisted me. And I think maybe there's more cynicism in the Northeast about, well, my grandfather didn't do it, damn it. And my father didn't do it, neither did I.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just bailed. I said, again, like I would say to an agent, if it didn't grab you, it wasn't your cup of tea, and you weren't having fun, then don't do it, man.
Right.
Don't do it,
Don't stress yourself out and
Yeah,
be in a position that you don't love.
Yeah, there's so many things we can do in life and be proud of. And some of my best friends are not real estate agents. You don't have to be a real estate agent to be worthy.
Yeah.
So
right.
do stuff that you like. And even in our business, if you don't like certain pieces of the biz, don't do those.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to knock on a door, then don't knock on a door. If you want to know how to do it, I'll help you learn. But if you don't like it, do stuff you like, as long as you're bringing in, you're meeting our minimum standards, and you're bringing in the profitability for the company, because we're not a charity either. We want productivity and profitability. And if you're not cutting it, just do something else.
Yeah, I hate cold calling. Cold calling's I would rather drive a nail into my eye than cold call. So that's why I'm like, I'll just do social media and mailers. I would much rather do that.
That's fun. Years ago, when I first was learning about all of this, before I became a CRB and understood things better, I thought it was important to encourage you to learn how to do it, until I realized, like, why? There's many different ways you can prospect, right? Maybe join the local Rotary and get to know people through there, and prospect that way, or don't do that. But I do think, I know one of the questions you wanted me to answer was, what can agents do to be successful? And I do think that giving back to your community in some way is really, really important. So joining those local clubs isn't just because you want to get a listing. It's because, this community is your rice bowl. This is where you're making your money. So give back to the community, not just, I don't mean give to get. I mean, give to give, because when you give to give, you do get,
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's less when you're like serving your community or impacting your community in some way. It also shows that you believe in the community and that you really care about the community. That's honestly one of the greatest pieces of advice I've heard. That's not like, oh, you got to prospect every day. I like that yours is like, you should focus on community and showing up for your community, because you're going to make connections. And also, it's just, at the end of the day, it's good. Well, I mean, helping out your local community, I mean, you can make a positive impact in just like the smallest way, Right. Did you ever have a mentor when you're in the business? Do you still have a mentor?
Early on, I want to say my first mentor was probably Harold Kahn. He was the broker owner who recruited me to join his company when I first started teaching. Then, I became, more visible, so people knew who I was, and it was something very clever that he did to get to know agents. I thought this was cool. In the day, we had the MLS book. Okay, it was a big book, and because we didn't have the internet stuff, and so these books were printed every 2 weeks. Think about the waste of paper.
I know, so much.
Every 2 weeks, every single agent got a book, right? So these books were printed, I forget where, and then they were brought somewhere. Well, I guess our MLS couldn't afford, we didn't even have an MLS when I joined the industry, but then we got one. But they decided they had to have drop-off points. So what a clever prospector he was, Harold Kahn. He's passed away now. He said, okay, I'll be the one for the Newburgh area. So every 2 weeks, a gazillion books with ropes tied, strings were delivered to the lobby of our office. And guess who had to come in to pick them up? The agents. Somebody, right, from off. Sometimes office, a volunteer from an office would get them all for everybody. So he was always interacting with agents. He got to see who was there, who was around, and then we had meetings and parties and all that too. In the olden days, the MLS and the boards were very, very social groups because that was the nature of it. And I guess also because we used to drink and drive in those days too. So whatever. But it was real social and whatever. And so he got to recruit people that way, or people got to see him and see our offices and see our operation. I don't want to say he openly was recruiting people, but they got to see him, and he was active in the community. So he was my mentor for learning all of those things. He was on the Chamber of Commerce. He volunteered at the hospital, on the board, eventually on the board, and all these things that he was teaching for NAR. He already was a CRB instructor. When I started to work there, he also was a national instructor. He was the president of NAR, had an institute called REMNI, Real Estate National Marketing Institute. That's where the courses all came from. He was the president of that. I mean, he was very well known nationally. And he's the reason I'm right here with you today. Yeah, absolutely. I stand on his shoulders because he taught me all about real estate, sales, management, and he pushed me, encouraged me. His belief, and he said this in his mission statement, is that he was a people development company that happened to be in real estate.
Whoa.
That's how much he cared about helping people grow.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a people development company that happened to be in real estate. And he was all about creating an environment. I said this earlier, this was his mission statement, actually, that was conducive to harmonious cooperation, to achieve excellence, growth, fun, and profit, while providing a successful real estate company. A service, I guess. Yeah.
That's really powerful. What a really cool, and especially for at the time, I think really revolutionary to be in the business.
He was revolutionary. Surely he was. And he let me, he didn't micromanage me, which worked for me because I hate to be micromanaged, like so many of us who went to independent jobs. And he did not, but he had me accountable. I had to report to him. He had manager meetings. He had more than one office. He had manager meetings. I had to report to him. I had to always know about the profitability piece. I was paid a salary, but I was paid on percentages of company dollar. So I had to learn what all that meant. Right. So if you wanted to work there, and I was, chatting with you about it, and you didn't care if you made any money, you just wanted, I was thinking also, I got to bring in that company dollar. Right. Not only because I get paid off it, but because that's my job to do that. Right. So I need you on that team to become profitable. Yeah, I don't need you in just drinking coffee all day and taking up a seat. I don't want you doing that,
Right. That's the there are some brokers that are out there that are very like, once you're here, we will micromanage and try to help you. And then there's some others that are very hands off. I think it's very much like energy of the broker, but I could not be in an office that is like, you need to be in every day and you need to make 20 phone calls. I could not thrive in an environment like that.
Right.
I would go nuts.
Yeah. There maybe have been some people who asked to be managed that way because they just didn't know how to get up and kick themselves in the pants. But I think you're right. You've got to have an independent spirit and have a good work ethic. You got to have, what is it? It's knowledge, skill, and attitude. That's the only three things if you don't have those, you won't be successful. Knowledge, I can help you with. Skill, we can help you with. But attitude, if you don't bring it, I can't give you attitude. You got to bring it. And if you don't have attitude, you're not going to
teach attitude, especially with some personalities. Is there anything Harold told you that still sticks into your mind today? Like almost like you can still hear his
Knowledge,
voice.
skill, and attitude. He told me that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. He used
Oh,
to
that's
say
fun.
that in the career seminars when he taught me how to do them in the recruiting seminars, he always said that. He always said that. Knowledge, skill, and attitude. Yep. Yeah.
Did
You would say there's only 3 reasons you won't be successful if you come into the business. Knowledge, you don't know how. Skill, you can't. Or attitude, you don't wanna. And we can't make you wanna. Okay. So you got to bring it.
with him being in your life and having such a massive impact on your life, were you like talking to him weekly even after you weren't at the brokerage anymore?
I was in the same building as him. Yeah, I
Oh,
was always
really?
in the home office. Yeah, I managed the home office, not
Okay.
operational management, but sales management. And he was a 2-story, so he was upstairs, in that because he had commercial division, he had finance divisions, he had other things, But I managed the home office of his company, Connie Realtors, Better Homes and Gardens, and then I also became the training director for all his offices as he grew the company. And he, like I say, he gave me a lot of rope, and I didn't mess up. So, but if I was maybe getting a little crazy, he'd step in,
But for the most part, kind of let you have free reign.
He absolutely. Well, I guess he was satisfied. I suppose it's a testimony to the fact that I worked very hard, and I watched, and I tried to emulate, his behaviors, and I also cared about people, so it wasn't so hard for me. I liked helping the agents. I still like agents. I mean, think about it, 50 years, and I still like real estate agents, because if I didn't, I could never do this.
Right.
Like I've known trainers over the years to go like, or managers, like, I'd really like this job if it wasn't for the agents. Well, duh. I mean,
Well, if you didn't have them, you wouldn't have a job. What are you talking about?
Oh, I've had agents who would come in and just be disappointed and say, I really like this job, except for the buyers and sellers. Well, I mean,
well, come on, that's the business,
except for the people.
Yeah. You real estate for 50 years is crazy.
Actually, this year is 50 years license. Is that pathetic, or I don't know if it's cool or
not
what?
pathetic. That's great. That's wonderful. I mean, and it comes. I remember you had mentioned before. After you get so many years, you get the emeritus. Am I saying that right?
So realtor, I will tell you what I know you asked me to define that. Realtor emeritus is conferred upon you by the National Association of Realtors. You have to apply. You have to be consistently, without a break, a realtor for 30 years.
Wow.
And you have to apply. Now, because when they came out with it, there were so many older people in real estate, they didn't make it a real hard thing to get. You just had to be like alive and breathing 30 years and, and have, you know what I mean? But then they made it a little tougher. And now it is, when you apply, you have to show that you've been involved in, say, real estate activities, like, say, NAR committees even, and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a little tougher to get. And so when I got it 20 years ago, well, not quite. I got it, I don't know when I got it, after 30 years in the biz. Yeah, so I guess it was a long time ago. I already was on NAR committee, so it really wasn't difficult for me to get it. I've always stayed very actively engaged in the real estate industry, volunteering and being on committees and teaching nationally and being on national committees. So I go to the conventions, that kind of thing. So it wasn't tough for me to get. One of the benefits of it is that once you are a realtor emeritus, you don't pay NAR dues anymore. And depending upon your own local board, you don't pay state dues and you don't pay NAR dues. But depending upon your board, you may not pay any dues at all. I pay no dues at all.
Wow, that's cool.
So I pay MLS, but I don't pay for, which is a benefit, but it isn't why I got it. But I just think it's kind of, it's a nice honor to be a realtor emeritus, but it doesn't mean that I'm retired. See, one of the downsides I have found over the years is that when I put it on my signature, some people think that means you used to be in real estate, but you're not anymore. Like so.
Yeah.
So I have to clarify what it means,
Yeah, right. It's really cool that they had that because I didn't even know that existed until you had mentioned it one time we were talking.
Yeah, realtor. Yeah, look it up. NAR Realtor Emeritus.
That's really cool. There's the amount of information that's out there for real estate is just insane. It's so crazy how it's like I love real estate. The same reason why I love jujitsu or martial arts is because it's like there's so much to learn, and every time I'm there, I feel like I'm learning something else. It just blows me away, and that's how real estate is. And it's really cool that like there's no deal that's the same. You always can learn something from one deal that will help you in the next. And there's tons of like course material. There's tons of different jobs that are tied to this industry, and it's really cool to see, especially over the 50 years, all the different changes you've seen happen in the industry. What do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen from like the internet or just cell phones or e-signing? Has there been one thing that's had like the biggest impact?
All of it was like a whoa moment for all of us. But for me, because I went into the regional jobs really early, where I had to, like I was handed a laptop when nobody even had laptops, but I was handed a laptop, with a memory that was worse than my Fitbit. You know what I mean? Like, and you used to dial in with the
the
internet. And I had to learn how to do that. Like I got hired for Better Homes and Gardens to be the regional manager. They handed me this little laptop and a bag phone, and said, okay, keep in touch, and I was like, okay. And I had to learn how to use it. So I was forced to learn. But the struggle of getting people to agree to use the internet early on, I mean, now we're past that. That was very difficult as a trainer for me.
Really?
And it was very difficult to watch the agents suffer through it. They just didn't want to give up the book, they weren't as willing to accept change. Now, over the years, though, everything moves so fast that there's always change. I've written so many programs about the dynamics of change, because to be in this business, you have to be willing to accept change. In fact, I then added it to my interviewing stuff. When I teach, interviewing agents and stuff, I added it to like one of the questions would be, how do you feel about change? Because if you're not willing to agree that change is inevitable, whether you like the change or not, it is inevitable. Think about real estate. The listings change, the places change, the buyers change, the sellers change. The rates change, the programs change. I was just on a housing opportunities meeting yesterday at the NICER meetings, the virtual ones, and learning about the new Sony May / FHA Express, which is a cool new hybrid of a mortgage program that's so valuable for buyers today, especially because nobody has any money because the prices went up so much. Yeah. I think that everything is changing so fast that you have to embrace change. You can't probably learn every single app or use every single app, but golly, you got to be willing to try some of them and ask for help. Right. I think some of the experienced agents who are struggling with the technology that we have either have to ask for help and spend the time learning, or delegate and just don't have that job. But the problem for those people is, since there's no grandfather anymore, they have to take CE. They're in my classes and in yours, you know them. They come in, they don't know how to use Zoom. They don't want to learn how to use Zoom. So there was that struggle for the last couple of years of getting these people up to speed. And they say, I don't have a chat box, or I don't know how to download the document from the chat box, all that stuff, where the agents in the class would be rolling their eyes, and the instructors are having a problem because of the timing you're thrown off to teach people these things, which is not on the timed outline, and I've decided just more recently that I'm going to change how I look at it. So, Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So now here's my new theory. All those people in my classes who don't know how to use Zoom, I'm okay with that. I've decided to why get aggravated? I'm okay with that. You know why? Because I understand it's the only way you can take a class right now, unless your board goes back to live. And I know you're not going to learn how to use it. I get it. I'm going to accept the fact that you're not. When I put you in a breakout room and you don't know how to get in there, I'm just going to figure out how to get you in it. Or when you don't want to play Kahoot, you don't want to do all that stuff. Fine. Don't play. The rest of us will play, and then you come back. I'm not going to fight this anymore. I think that a lot of these people who are usually they're older in age, that they're either going to age out of the biz, or they'll figure out a different way to get their CE. So, but I'm giving up on the fact that they're going to learn. I don't think they're going to learn. They don't want to. Again, that's the attitude, isn't it? They don't want to.
And we're just talking about like one program, like Zoom, right?
Yeah.
But like I can't imagine the uproar of the internet, of the entire MLS going on the internet.
It was amazing. I will never forget the day that, oh golly, I'm forgetting his name right now, but it was a very well-known national speaker. Oh, kind of disappeared after a while, but he went on the stage at Long Island Board of Realtors, which, as you know, even still today is the largest board, one of the largest boards in the country, larger than some state associations. Wow. Their board has about 28,000 members. When you think about it, how many realtors are there at NYSAR? About 60-something thousand. Yeah. Well, about 28, about half of them are from the Long Island Board of Realtors.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then when they merged their MLS with ours and some others, we have 44,000 members now at One Key MLS. 44,000 members, and there's only 60-something thousand in all of NYSAR. So pretty much all of them are downstate, right? Think about it.
That's crazy.
So I'm in the room for this big conference. I was working at Merrill at the time, and I was just there as a guest, and because I was teaching for them a lot, and I am sitting in the audience, and this speaker gets up on the stage with an attaché case. With a laptop bag. That's what it was, a laptop bag. And all these agents are sitting there like, whatever. He's going to talk about the internet. We hate the internet. We don't even know what it is anyway. We want the book, damn it. MLS that day was going on the internet that day at Long Island. So he gets up and he opens up the laptop bag and he takes out the MLS book, which he had in the laptop bag. And he said, I'll never forget it. And he said, you see this book? And he dropped it. Today, it's on the internet. Right now, it's on the internet. And then he fielded some questions and stuff. But I thought it was such a dramatic, I'll never forget it. It was such a dramatic visualization of no more book. But people fought it. People paid extra to have it printed just for their company or them.
Yeah. Because some people don't want to let go of comfort.
Yeah, but it wasn't comfortable to have. Think about it. You had to go through the whole book, and when you could just go on the internet and find it in a second. Yeah. Plus, it wasn't the most updated information because it was only updated every 2
weeks. Yeah. But Roseann, I got everything in the book, and I know that page 23 is the start of the chapter that begins with letter B's, and I know the form, and I know
I still remember the codes. I remember Cornwall and Hudson was 630. Cornwall was 640. Town of Newburgh was 610. I still remember that because that's how the book was built by the areas, and we called them zones.
Yeah. Roseann, what am I going to do with all these numbers in my head now? You want me just to think they're on the internet? It's ridiculous.
Crazy. So
that's when agents lose their mind when we get a new tool through our brokerage. Sometimes they're like, I don't know how to use this thing. I'm not going to touch it. So I can only imagine something as giant and substantial as the internet coming around.
And then, of course, the other really big one was the first big foreclosure or the debacle of the savings and loan, when the savings and loans collapsed, and it was that was scary. Change for all.
2008.
No, it was way. It was. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the exact date, but it was the savings and loan debacle early on, and I remember that since the feds had to bail out the SNLs, they bought all those mortgages, and we created my company. Again, I worked for Harold at the time. He got most of the listings, so the RTC was formed, the Resolution Trust Corporation, by the feds, and all those mortgages went into the RTC, and now the RTC was listing the properties with real estate brokers. And if we didn't get them sold quick enough, they went to auction. And I had to learn all because I was a manager, and I would go with the agents. I'd take them to the auction. It was either in Newark Airport or Leonard's of Great Neck, like a wedding venue, and everybody was auctioning off the stuff. And we still got paid, but it was crazy, wacky time. Wow. And that's about the time that the FIREA Act was passed, where appraisers had to get licenses, and a lot of changes in our industry because of that savings and loan debacle and all these foreclosures. And then there's been several after that. So we kind of but that was my first experience dealing with foreclosures and things like that.
Yeah. Wow. What a amazing career you have in real estate. You've seen all different peaks and valleys, because real estate's never an all-time high. And it's really cool that I think you were able to adapt and kind of just go with the changes. I mean, geez, getting a laptop handed to you in early 90s and being like, here you go, figure it out. Like that's, and you figured it out. Like it's impressive. It's really cool. And I can understand
if you're going to keep your job, you have to do what they tell you to do,
Yeah. You're like, I better learn this computer shit quick.
Yeah, I had to. We all did.
I understand why so many people enjoy your classes, because you're very genuine and you have a very fun style class. I've taken your Zoom. I much prefer an in-person, just because I feel like I can feel everybody's energy a little bit more in the class. But you're still so good at Zoom teaching. Like sometimes Zoom classes can be rough, Roseann, but you have a way to make them engaging and fun. And that's what I appreciate about you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been such a joy. Getting to talk to you for an hour and learn so much is amazing. I feel like sometimes our phone conversations go for an hour, but it's really cool getting to learn more about you,
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. And if anybody's wondering why I have a palm tree behind me, although it is only silk, because I'm not here all the time. I am in Florida right now. And one of the benefits of, working and crewing, et cetera, is that I get to spend some time in Florida in the winter, and I'm glad of that. Because of Zoom, I can still work, right? So
isn't that awesome? You can be wherever you want in the world and still teach. I mean, we took the ITI class, and we had the girl from California in our class. Like, how cool is that?
Remember that?
Happened if she wasn't there,
I know, right? Yeah.
It's really technology
from the South too. Remember those two gals from some board? I forget. Yeah.
Don't be afraid of change, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Change can be good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Roseann. I appreciate your time as always. You're wonderful.
So welcome.